Hello, my name is Dave Sender. Each year goes by, we experience greater and greater cost of living uh, expenses. Most of us have not experienced our raises and our income to match the cost of living in what is reality. Um, some of us have lost our jobs. It's been very difficult for many people. Um, So I've got one question for you. Wouldn't it be nice if we could bring that cost down, if there were such a way to do that? Uh, there's not just one end-all be-all answer to that question. Uh, Needless to say, there are many facets of what it will take to stabilize that and in some areas reduce that. But two areas where we've seen really large increases year after year is in our food and our fuel. Um, Here in the upper Midwest, we produce a great part of that supply each year, not only to the U.S. but to the world. So it would be nice if there were more cost-effective ways to to raise our food. I'm going to start off by talking about what's called total surface tillage or conventional tillage. It's been a practice that's been around for roughly 70, 80 plus years. It started all the way back with John Deere manufacturing the first plows that were pulled behind ox and horses. The old sod busters, as you might remember from your history lessons in elementary school and middle school. But what conventional tillage is it's 100% surface of that field being tilled. Um, it turns everything over. It's very hard on the land. It's pretty inefficient as well. Farmers are typically only traveling 3 to 4 miles per hour when they're doing their heavy primary tillage in the fall, and they're traveling maybe 6 to 8 miles an hour when they're doing their spring conditioning for planting. Conventional till generally requires about 4 to 5 passes, in some cases even more than that, across the field to condition that soil and prepare it for planting. It takes a lot of time for them to do that. It takes a lot of fuel to do that. Fertilizer is broadcast over the entire surface of the field, so a lot of the fertilizer goes unused. It's washed into waterways. It's blown off the field by high winds. Again, it's a very inefficient way of doing it. Conventional tillage really takes all the structure out of the soil. When you think of structure in soil, think of the root masses that are in the soil, holding that soil together. With conventional till, you're essentially turning that world upside down, and you're taking everything out of that subsurface structure, which leads to high amounts of water and wind erosion. When there's high water events or high wind events, um, it can be really ugly. We noticed we had some of that in central east central Minnesota last year. We had some areas where we had people that experienced 15 inches of rain in a matter of 10 days. And the conventional till farmers had to go into the ditches with skid loaders and buckets and literally scoop that topsoil back out of the ditches. I noticed that last fall I happened to be out walking in a dried up swamp, and I noticed corn growing 50 to 75 yards out into a dried up swamp, which meant that all the seed that farmer had planted that spring I had been washed into that swamp with those heavy rains of the spring. It was in May of 2012. So I know it's a lot of doom and gloom, and don't get me wrong, conventional till's been around a long time, and it does work. Um, but as with good old American ingenuity, we are thinking of better ways of doing things all the time. And there's a type of tillage, it's called conservation tillage, that's been around. It's actually been around for about 50 years. There's three really big, if you will, big forms of conservation tillage. There's strip till, there's ridge till, and there is no-till. No-till is pretty self-explanatory. It's where no tillage takes place whatsoever. Ridge till is the soil is bermed into ridges that is farmed in that same trough, if you will, year after year. Strip till leaves the prior year's root masses in place, so the New Year's crop is alternated between those root masses from year to year. I'm going to discuss strip till and ridge till. Again, no-till is pretty self-explanatory. In the past, the strip till, ridge till equipment has been pretty undependable. That's why one of the reasons why a lot of farmers didn't want to consider that type of farming. They just couldn't trust the equipment. As technological advances have been taking shape over the past, especially the past decade or so, strip till and ridge till is getting to be more and more accepted in the industry. If we need a way to slow down this rapid escalation in our rising food and fuel costs. Conservation tillage can fill these needs in more ways than one, and be environmentally friendly in the process. There's a study that shows that strip till can actually make a farmer up to $33 more per acre, which with most farmers nowadays farming 2,000 plus acres, there's farmers that are farming tens of thousands of acres. Needless to say that can add up very quickly. When you're strip tilling or ridge tilling, you're only tilling about 30% of the field's surface, as opposed to 100% of the surface with conventional till. So your wind and water erosion is greatly reduced, and that significant rainfall event that I mentioned just a minute ago, we had a customer that was in the midst of all the conventional farmers, and his fields didn't move. He had just a very minimal amount of erosion. His neighbors would stop by and look and ask him questions on what he had did different, as they were having to replant their fields after all the seeds had been washed out of the fields. Secondly is reduced fuel consumption. I've talked with farmers that are practicing conservation tillage that burn anywhere from a half the fuel that they used to with conventional till, to some farmers that only burn a third of the fuel that they used to with conventional till. So not only are they using less fuel, they're lowering what their input costs are for raising that crop. But they're also releasing less of the greenhouse gases that you hear so much about back into the atmosphere. The fertilizer efficiency with this type of farming, as you're doing your tillage, strip till and ridge till, you're only making 2 passes across the field, and you're doing it at much faster rates than you would with conventional till, anywhere from 6 to 8 up to 10 to 15 miles an hour. But you're placing your fertilizer in those strips as well. In those strips, the plant has more access and is more readily available to the plant. So you don't have the runoff that you would with conventional till. you ask yourself, me as a layperson, what can I do to make a difference? How can I make a difference in farmers' lives? I live in town. I don't know what to do. Uh, One of the things you can do is actually write or call your congressman or senate person. Um, the farming and government have been um, they've been together for a long time now. Governments had subsidies for farmers. They've offered low interest loans. There's a lot of different things that government does day in and day out as being part of, of a farmer's life. Um, some forms of conservation tillage and some motivation for farmers to switch to this type of tillage have been discussed within our government, both at the federal and state levels, and really even on some local levels when it comes to some watershed districts and so forth. Um, One thing that has been studied has been carbon sequestration with conservation tillage and the benefits of that. In a nutshell, it's pulling out and retaining carbon out of the atmosphere rather than releasing it. Um, Farmers have been adopting this newer technology more readily in the past 5 years or so as it's becoming more dependable and trustworthy. But there's still a lot of farmers out there that just don't want to try it. They don't want to trust it yet. And part of it is they don't have an incentive. And again, this is where the government comes in, where they could incentivize the use of that equipment by offering some low interest loans and maybe some sort of conservation credit. Um, so that again, that has been discussed. I'm sure as we roll along, more and more that will come about. We are seeing some low interest loans through watershed districts for conservation tillage to be adopted. So, to really summarize everything is that with costs rising for everyone in this day and age, we need to find a way to lower our costs. And again, there's not just one answer, but if we answer several of these questions, we'll be able to finally start making some progress. And conservation tillage is one way to address that. In addition to that, we're also being environmentally friendly by mitigating the wind and water erosion. Um, if you're from a farming area and you have lakes around you, you know how green they get in the summer. That is from fertilizer runoff. So there's a lot of environmental benefits along with economic benefits that go along with conservation tillage. Thank you.